and just know some folks are still coming back from lunch a little late, so, but I should.
Paul, do you want to move back here, or should we move more forward since there's a little bit of room?
Especially convenient for the question and answer portion at the end in the recording. All right, Norilyn.
Come on up.
Go ahead.
It's warm. Hi, Dominic.
You'll see everyone.
Well, we're going to get going because we are here on time, and we have to honor that, and we have a lot to get through today. So, okay. So my name is Paul Caseley. I'm the program manager. Oh, he's not. Yeah, he's not recording yet.
It's recorded.
It is. So I'm the program manager for Tobacco Cessation Program for Veterans with Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. I have been here for about 3 years with WDVA. And before that, I was with the Employment Security Department and at the Workforce Office at JBLM. And very thankful to see some colleagues, former colleagues from that organization. Before that, I was working in the transition programs for all military bases in Washington State. And before that, I was a teacher. So varied career paths, and I'm very happy to be here today. And we also have Norilyn de la Pena. She is from Seattle King County Department of Health. And we're going to get going with our program today. Thank you for being here on the Friday afternoon. We're going to have some fun along the way. And we're going to start off actually with a video from a parent. And it will kind of be a shock and awe at the beginning. And then it will kind of lighten it up as we go along. But we have to get your attention with this very important subject, which is we're saving lives with these kinds of programs in our state. And so we want to make sure that we set the tone for that and do the ask of you, which is to become ambassadors out there to help us in this effort. Okay, so we're going to give you some tools today, give you some resources to empower you to go and work with some of your clients and veterans that you serve, and do the ask, do the critical ask. You know, do you need help with smoking? Do you need help with smoking cessation, vaping, smokeless tobacco, chewing? So first we're going to hear from Beatrice.
I decided to quit because my son, Nicholas, wrote me a letter when he was about 11 and left it on the kitchen table for me to read. And once I saw it, I felt really badly because I knew it was affecting him, and he knew that smoking was bad for you. So he wrote when he was 11, it says, "Dear Mom, smoking. Thank you, Mom, for quitting smoking. I know you can do it. It is a hard thing to do, but smoking kills you. So you are saving your life. I'm lucky to have parents like you and Daddy, because maybe other parents would probably say, oh, he's just a kid. But you are the best mom in the world. Don't smoke." And then he drew a little something just cute. It's me smoking, and then that's like before and after, and that's the dead me. That's him crying because he was afraid that I was going to die. And I made copies of it, and I keep it everywhere. Obviously I keep this one in my wallet, and I keep some at my desk, and I have them at home on my refrigerator, so it's like everywhere. My son is really proud that I quit smoking. He thinks it's the best thing I've ever done, and he thanked me for it. I think I'm being a good role model now.
So I'm going to take a pause here just to let Norilyn introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Norilyn de la Pena. I'm with Public Health Seattle and King County in the Cannabis, Tobacco, and Vaping Prevention Program. We just added cannabis to our program title recently. I'm the cessation program manager with our program, and I also work on a community coalition, supporting them on providing BIPOC folks with mental health resources, linking them with mental health support. So it is my pleasure to be here with Paul today. We have partnered over the last year on tobacco trainings like this, and just really feel that it's a need out there for people to know what resources exist out there. And I'm really excited that the Washington State VA has taken this on as a priority, because it is there is a disparity out there. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the resources that you can refer folks to help them quit. And my part of the program will be really around the counseling piece and the intervention, and having that conversation with your veteran or the families of the veteran that you're helping. So thank you for being here. And I understand that people are still trying to get back from lunch, and also there's competing workshops, really great workshops out there. So thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Norilyn. And we are thankful for all our partners. We are funded by a grant from the CDC for community disparities, and we're in partnership with the Department of Health for Washington State. We also have formed a coalition, which we are in our third monthly meeting, and we have 28 organizations that are involved with that, including some heavies like Fred Hutch, American Lung Association, American Heart Association, and lots of county health districts. And like I said, there's about 28 of those, so we're very thankful for our partners. We're going to see a short video. If you decide to quit, or if you are helping someone quit, immediately start talking about the benefits of quitting. And within minutes, our body is going to start rejuvenating itself. Okay, so we're going to see a short video from the CDC here. Pause the video. It's scrolling over. Okay, so today we're going to take you through some education pieces. We're going to take you through some historical ways that the military have been marketed to over time. And so how did we get here with the problem of smoking with veterans? I'm going to have you look at some data, just kind of set the case. We're going to continue hearing from some former smokers and their testimony. We're going to look at why did service members start smoking in the first place, and then how nicotine affects the brain and the body. We're going to take a short break, and then Norilyn's going to talk about menthol cigarettes, e-cigarettes and vapes, smoking and mental health, withdrawal symptoms, intervention techniques, role plays, motivational interviewing techniques that you can use with your clients, an assessment tool called the 5 A's that you can sit down with folks and start using right away when you get back to your office. And then we'll look at some resources and some helpful tools you can take with you at the end. Okay, so because we do want you to leave with some things that you can do yourself to help with the problem. So let's look at the data. This is from a survey in 2021 from the CDC, and veterans in Washington State, 11.9% are smoking. Look at the increase when you add in the disabilities, 31.8%. That's quite dramatic. And so, as a result of this needs assessment with DOH and CDC, we determined that part of our focus would actually target veterans with disabilities. And more on that later, how the disabilities and aging actually plays into those statistics. So in Washington State, 11.5% is the public smoking rate. And we have the veterans, it increases to 13%, and again, we're adding in the disability up to 18%. What I'd like you to notice here is the poverty level under $15,000. Non-veterans, 20.8%. Veterans, 47.3%. The cost is huge to participate in doing this to your body, all right? And the people with the lowest income are the highest users of it. Okay, we add in some other factors. Coping with a stressful situation, 30.6%. Avoiding triggers of anxiety, 30.3%. Coping with memory loss, 27.2%. And so we are finding that with the decrease as mental health drops, we have an increase in use with nicotine, tobacco also. Also with other substances, alcohol. On a personal note, I have 17 years of sobriety from alcohol. I drank and I smoked when I drank. All right, happy hour, kind of sexy, right, a little bit. And that went away when I stopped drinking. So it is a factor, those social factors, we'll get into some more of those in a moment. So here's a question for you. Ask the audience, which military service has the highest nicotine use? What do you think?
Army.
Navy.
Army? Navy?
Air Force. They do
Air
less,
Force.
They do less work.
Yeah, we named them all yet? No? Huh?
She's retired.
Marines, you got it. Marines. Take a look. 40.3% for females, 62.4% for males. And we acknowledge that not all genders are represented here. And try and find some more of that. So watch for a theme here as I advance through. We look at the younger folks, 18 through 25s. We're looking at these two right here. Still Marine Corps. 35.9, oh, it's Navy, yeah. 34.6. So we define it as those who have used chewing tobacco, snuff, or other smokeless tobacco in the past 12 months. So this is smokeless tobacco. So Marines for smoking, Marines for smokeless tobacco. All right, and Navy's in there too with the older, up to 25. Smokeless tobacco again, Marine Corps, 31.9%. 1971, Philip Morris came out with an article targeting military, and they're fully acknowledging how and why they're targeting the military. Subjective reports have often indicated that the persons entering stressful situations, starting a new job or entering the military, frequently either start to smoke or either increase their rate of smoking. So they're firmly acknowledging that this went into their strategic planning. "38% of current smokers in the military began smoking after entering the military." I remember going to San Diego, down to boot camp on a train from Los Angeles MEP Center, and guys and gals were smoking. I remember one person had a cigarette here, 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 and here. And they were smoking them on the train. Right, like this. And then through my naval career, it was smoke 'em if you got 'em. You know, we'll pull over at the favorite barbecue pit, and everyone gets out and has a smoke. I wasn't one of those, but I remember it well. Okay, so a possible hypothesis could be the military market may be a predictor of future, or better yet, used to develop the future. So what did they do? Started sending cigarettes overseas to folks deployed. It was a ration. Yeah, 2 free cartons. Norilyn has something. You want to tell that?
Unfortunately, I lost it, but through the years, presentations and trainings and such, I would bring along my brother, who was in the Marine Corps for 27 years. And while he was at his first war, he was 19 years old at the time, but he received a cute little blue duffel bag from Philip Morris with said rations, and that's how a lot of the soldiers started, their smoking path. And I have pictures of my brother actually smoking cigars, like with the dogs out there, and it's like, we talk about the culture and the environment, and this is all like plays into how people get started. So the industry is really good about, I'm here to help you, and I'm here to offer aid. I'm here to they're still sponsoring things like domestic violence shelters throughout the states. They used to be really heavily targeting their products at the rodeo and at for the race car events and things like that. So they're still out there. They're just thinking about different ways of promoting their products. I know that one of the latest things is doing some product promotions at the clubs, and where folks are DJing, and just scan their ID, and then they can get a coupon for a free sample, or coupon for this and that for reduced price products. So they're still out there doing their thing, trying to make the community think that they are doing good for the community when they're really trying to get them into their addictive products.
Thank you. Here's some more marketing ads, the Chesterfields. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Costlier tobaccos. We're going to hear from Brian now. Brian, I believe, was an Air Force veteran. He's an Air Force veteran, and he has a powerful testimony. And later on, we're actually going to hear from his wife.
By the time I was 10 or 11, I was smoking probably close to a pack a day. Smoking had been ingrained into me. It was part of who I was, it seemed like. Smoking was, having a cigarette, that was Brian. That was me. I hadn't really thought much about joining the military at a young age, but I loved it. I enlisted in November 1972. Within a year after I got in the military, I met my future wife. We were very young, and we wanted to see the world. We traveled all over Europe. We saw things, and we were able to experience stuff that most people would never have the opportunity to do. I was stationed in Germany until I had my heart attack when I was 35. So I went from being able to travel the world and see the world to confining my life either at home or going to doctors. That's all because of cigarettes. Well, I had a heart attack. I had the first defibrillator where they had to cut my chest open. And put the patches on. Then I had a bypass operation. Then my lungs started going bad. Then I had to be on oxygen. Then I had stents put in. Then I had stents put in. I was in the hospital for months. I spent days in emergency rooms, hundreds of IVs. My poor wife having to sit down in emergency rooms for hours upon hours upon hours. My kids getting called up, Dad's in the hospital again. He might die, I've got to come down. It was a lot. Every doctor along the way said, knock it off, stop smoking. I had to stop smoking, even to the time when I had my first run for a heart transplant. I had smoked. I don't know why I did it. And then the day I went to the doctors, they always draw your blood, and they gave me the pager. They said, okay, you're on the transplant list. That's the key to the hope for the future, is you get the pager and, okay, now I'm going to get a new heart, and we'll be able to live. And that evening, the doctor called up and said, Brian, we found nicotine in your blood, and you need to come back tomorrow and give me back the pager. I'm not listening. That was crushing for me, for my wife, for my kids. It was hard. And I screwed up. I screwed. I just screwed up bad.
That's pretty powerful testimony. I want you to be thinking about, maybe there's been some people in your life, that you've known over the years, family members or otherwise, that have had quit attempts. They're still struggling perhaps with it, and maybe something you learned today or see can help them, and you can reach out and help them with some resources, okay? And if anybody wants to share about somebody they're thinking about that's gone through some of this, feel free to, indicate that you'd like to speak about it, and we can give you the mic, okay? Anybody want to do that now? If you're thinking about somebody, yeah, go ahead.
I'm thinking about myself, actually. Like, I have quit smoking already, but I'm on the nicotine pouches now that go in your lip. Supposedly they're safer. I highly doubt it, though, because when they say that kind of thing, it usually isn't true. Years later, we're going to find out that it's actually probably terrible. I almost had a failed back surgery. I've had 5 back surgeries in the last 5 years. Nicotine does not allow your bones to heal correctly, and my last back fusion didn't fuse completely all the way. It took about a little over a year, and usually at my age it takes about 6 months. But I was on these nicotine pouches, and they told me I can't do it, and I did it anyway, and I knew the consequences, but it's like that hard to quit. So I'm like, that's why I came in here today, because I saw that on there. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got a problem. So anyway, yeah, and then I quit smoking though, because like everybody in my family dies from it. So anyway, I'm having a hell of a time with this with these pouches now, and I just like know in my gut though that there's going to be consequences for these two. So Anyway, that's all I got.
What's your name, sir?
Russell.
Russell. Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you,
testimony.
Russell.
Very powerful. Yeah, thank you. Let's give him a hand, everybody. For sharing. Thank you. I can see you kind of getting emotional there, so thank you for being brave.
It drives me crazy that I'm a slave. So.
Appreciate you. We want to take a look at some reasons why folks say they smoke, particularly when they're deployed. Staying awake. I'm not going to read off these, we'll just click through them so you can take a look. And if any of this resonates, feel free to speak up. If you've experienced some of this, reasons why you used, or if you'd like to make any comments. This one leapt out at me a little bit because, why would somebody want to smoke to relieve sleep, to stay, to get more sleep, or, right? How would that factor in? Very common co-occurring with other addictions. Very common to see that. Surgeons General. Tobacco product use is a threat to the health and fitness of our forces and compromises readiness, the foundation of a strong national defense, as it's being sent to them by Philip Morris, right, in the field. Excellent article in the Stars and Stripes, tobacco product use threatens military readiness. So if you want to pull that up, it'll be in the slides, in the resources. Never a good time to start, always a good time to quit. Older veterans, we talked about those a little bit earlier, how it increases with age. According to the CDC, about 18% people between the ages of 45 and 64 smoke, highest of all age groups. Currently, I have several clients for our program at WDBA that are in our Washington State homes, two of them. And one of those people actually needed to quit to get on the heart transplant list, right? And so he was very reluctant. Actually took him about a year to actually decide to join the program, okay? I would say out of all my about 20 or so clients from the Washington State Veterans Homes, 75% of them are over the age of 50. So 65, 9% of all people smoke. And I see people walk by them at the Washington State homes, and they're out in the smoking shack. And I walk by and say hi, and they kind of know I'm there. So. Yeah. We are talking about the number one preventable and cause of death in the United States and around the world, of disease and death. Number one preventable cause of disease and death around the United States and the world. Told you about Brian from the Air Force. Now we're going to hear from Denise, his wife.
the years when I smoked, I never considered the effect that my smoking had on my family.
At 35, he had a heart attack. We were back and forth in hospital rooms constantly. I was in doctor's offices constantly.
Russell, so currently you're using a pouch,
Yeah.
right?
Just like, I don't know, for sand.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a different brand of that. Synthetic, I guess, it's salt or something like that. So it's not really tobacco, but it's made in the lab, which is probably even worse.
Yes. And so I'm going to be talking about some things that are FDA approved. I believe Zyn is not. Okay. So we're going to talk about nicotine replacement therapy, which is NRT. You'll see it in that acronym. And so what we're talking about is Nicorette gum. Okay. There are lozenges in varieties of flavors, and then the Nicoderm patches. Okay. So we were able to purchase some NRT. So we're actually going to be offering free NRT for veterans in conjunction with the Department of Health has a partnership with Tomorrow Health and their app for Tomorrow Health. And we've been collaborating with the Tomorrow Health folks, and going live next week, we have been able to add a veteran option on the Tomorrow Health app. You download the app, and you have the option to order free NRT to your doorstep. It'll be delivered to you. And right now, anyone can go on the Tomorrow Health app and order 1 box of patches. What we have been able to achieve is now you can order patches, gum, and or lozenges. And our next meeting will be negotiating how to extend that out over a longer period of time, so it won't just be 1 box. Okay, so good things to come. Good things to come. All right. A quick stretch break. I don't want you to leave the room, but I'm going to bring out something to kind of infuse a little fun here.
And while we're taking that little break, if you are a vet corps, before you leave, we have a clipboard for you guys to sign for your credit. So, if they're vet corps, instead of uniform, vet corps, they're vet corps staff. It's in the back just before you leave.
Okay, so I'm going to toss this out. Wherever your right thumb lands, it'll be the question that's closest to your right thumb that you're going to ask. They don't expect you to know the answers.
So we'll be tossing the ball out, and where your right thumb lands, that's the question that you're going to be asking. And then we have the answers up here in case we don't recall the answer. We're just going to have a little fun for like 2 or 3 minutes here, okay?
Okay. Ready? And I have the mic. We're going to have to use the mic.
Thank you.
Video won't.
It's all right. Just catch it. Catch it.
Okay, my right thumb.
Okay, right thumb.
Can you hear me? So how is chewing tobacco used?
What number is it?
50. 50.
50.
How is chewing?
That mic's not on. I don't think that mic's on.
It's not.
I can't hear it back here.
It sounds on. And the light.
We can hear.
Hello.
All right. So users put a piece of tobacco between their cheek and lower lip. usually toward the back of the mouth, where it is chewed or held in place. Saliva buildup is then spit or swallowed. Isn't that lovely? What's the question? How does tobacco damage the environment?
Does anybody know? Want to take this?
It kind of reminds me of the actor that played Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve?
Died of cancer.
There is a testimony of someone in these CDC videos that had to have heart surgery and never smoked in his life. Yeah, just from secondhand smoke. How does tobacco damage the environment? The massive environmental damage caused by tobacco includes deforestation, water depletion, pesticide use, and waste products. All right, want to toss it?
Question number 8, which is, what does E stand for in e-cigarette?
Does anybody know? Electronic. Well done. Okay, one more.
True or false, red or white patches in the mouth or on the tongue or gums may be signs of oral cancer.
Everybody? True. Absolutely, 100%. If you are interested in smokeless tobacco cessation, we have a workshop coming up on September 22nd. September 22nd. It's a Friday, 9 to 12. It's virtual, online. And it's with Patrick Graves, who's the tobacco cessation specialist at Naval Hospital, Bremerton. Been around in the field for a long time. There is a handout here with a QR code. It'll take you right to the registration page. We'd be happy to have you there. Okay. Go back one. Yeah. So we're going to turn things over to Norilyn. She's with King County Department of Health, and she's going to guide you through some things. We just talked about e-cigarettes. She's going to start off with that. And here you go, Norilyn.
See if I can toggle both of these. Do you want to? Okay, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul, for covering data and the background and the industry marketing and tactics. I'm going to go into a little bit more about background and some more strategies used by the tobacco industry. First of all, I would like to know, maybe you yourself are tobacco users or electronic or vape users. Just curious, if you are open to sharing, if you currently smoke or use tobacco. Back there, over here. Okay, good. And you're likely in different stages of your maybe attempting to quit or thinking about quitting again, whatnot. Curious, do you mind sharing what you smoke? How about over here first? No sharing there. Okay. Yep, back there.
Camel menthols.
Camel menthols. Anybody else here smoke menthols? You used to smoke menthols. Okay. We're going to talk about menthols, just focusing on menthols just a little bit. My dad was in the military. He was in the U.S. Navy for over 20 years. And oftentimes he would have his buddies come over. Well, one day his buddy left his pack of Benson and Hedges on the table, on the coffee table. You're like, yeah, Benson and Hedges. That's what your dad smoked too. I know we had some commonalities.
That's what I started on. Benson
And that's what you started on, Benson and Hedges. Benson and Hedges were the go-to product, it sounds like. So what did I do at 8 years old? I picked up that pack and I said, sister, who was 5 at that time, come downstairs and let's try these cigarettes. And that's what we did. Went downstairs, opened the window. You know, I was keen enough to know that we gotta hide this, you know. Open up the windows, and there was my first experiment at smoking cigarettes. And of course, at that time, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to take it into my lungs. I didn't find out until high school with the volleyball team. They're like, Nora, you're doing it wrong. like, what do you mean? You're not even smoking. You're not even taking it to your lungs. And so I'm like, well, how do you do it? So there I was just practicing, and I did not take it in very well, apparently, because that was one of the last times I tried. But that could have easily led me down this path of addiction. And unfortunately, a lot of the volleyball girls did fall into that addiction and might still to this day use these products. But I'm calling that out because menthol is the #1 choice for young people, #1 choice for our Black, our Indigenous, Native American communities, our Asian, our Latinx communities. And why might that be? What is it about menthol that would draw people towards that kind of product, that flavored product? You have a microphone? Okay. What is it about menthols? What do you like about menthols? Or what did you like?
It's more refreshing.
Refreshing?
It's just more refreshing. And
Yes.
It does not seem
As
harsh. And dirty.
You're saying all the right things. Okay, not harsh, kind of takes away that harshness and that bite, and a little more refreshing. Anything else about menthols?
Just tastes better.
Tastes better, yes. It's also the product that is known to users to take it in more deeply. You can hold it longer. It's harder to quit menthols. So the industry, knowing this and knowing what their profit margins would look like if we got the community hooked on these things, they did all that they could. They were in Ebony magazine, or at places where the community was. And we often hear, why do people smoke? Why? Just blurt it out there.
Stress relief.
Stress, #1 thing. Stress. Second is probably boredom. But people smoke because they are stressed, so they're using it as a coping mechanism, a way to cope with the stress, the anger, the depression, all of these things. So just wanted to show some of the targeted ads that were done back in the day. Newport Pleasure. We saw Chesterfields earlier. Bold Smoke Easy. You talked about the refreshing nature of it and the cooling effects, and that it's not as harsh. The perception of intense cooling, reduced harshness that you mentioned, anesthetic effects, so it kind of numbs as well. Enables deeper inhalation, alters perception of airflow, reduces perceived harm from smoking, and also is the hardest to quit. So go ahead next. Not sure if you know what's going on out there. The biggest news lately and the biggest push in the industry to combat the industry is to ban menthol. So back in 2009, FDA banned flavored products, but they did not ban menthol, and that is, now there's just a huge cry, like, we need this banned. If it was banned, many people would not smoke it. Many people would not try to smoke it, and we'd have a lot more people that would quit. So here's an ad. It says, if the new additive is flavorless and odorless, why advertise taste? So this is an ad that says, introducing the non-menthol for menthol smokers. And then down here it says, new, fresh taste, same satisfaction. So it's a way for the industry to continue to sell their products and have that same branding, but since it can't be menthol, they said the new non-menthol. And we have menthol in our everyday products at home. There's just a slide of some of the things. We've got, Vicks and Bengay, Ricola, Listerine, and then the cool Salem Newport cigarettes there. What they have added to the non-menthol is a lot more sugar and that licorice and the carob for the smoother taste. So these are some of the tactics that the industry is using. I just wanted to call that out. Okay. Have you heard of crush? Like, to get that menthol flavor, you just crush it, and then there you have that menthol flavor. Crush the capsule. Another way to advertise. E-cigarettes and vapes. We know that the rates of tobacco smoking is going down generally, not with the menthol part, unfortunately, but tobacco use has gone down. but it has exploded exponentially with our young people. So we're going to talk briefly about e-cigarettes and vape products. We'll be familiar with Juul. Juul was like the number one thing that got our youth hooked. I just wanted to show and tell this tackle box that I have. Talked about industry marketing. Well, if we didn't have flavored electronic liquids and electronic juices like strawberry and fruity pebbles and things that were very appealing to young people, then we probably wouldn't be up against what we are now. But just to show you, this is actually candy, but to a young person or a child, it could look like, this is kind of what the electronic juices look like. Really similar looking products. This is actually close to looking like, the eye drops as well. Very similar. There's calls to the poison center of young kids, toddlers and stuff getting into these products. Very dangerous. Just a little bit can cause some damage. Here's an actual eye drops, but these look like everyday products. Here's a vape that has the camouflage on there. But these battery operated devices, it heats a liquid to create an aerosol, and that aerosol is taken by the user. So there's different kinds of e-cigarettes and products out there. Here are just some e-pens, vape pens, mods. There's so many different types. After Juul, the next biggest thing was these puff bars. So as far as environmental effects, this is one of them. Like the industry doesn't tell you how to discard these products. These were found during COVID lockdown when I would take my dog out for a walk out on the sidewalks at the parks. Elf Bar is another one that you might be familiar with, very common now, but same thing. Heats up this liquid, gets it into your system, and it has some tremendous amount of nicotine. I usually have this Juul plugged into my laptop and take it out during presentations, but you can just plug these in like an iPhone, wherever an iPhone is plugged in. You can plug them in there. Look at this starter kit. It looks really sleek, really modern. They called this like the e-cigarettes of, or Juuls were the iPhones of e-cigarettes type of thing. So really making these look really fun to use and open and discreet. And the industry was really keen on, okay, all these tobacco policies are going into effect. We are up against these tobacco-free grounds and policies. Let's create these things that we can market that can be discreetly used, that, youth are using these in classrooms, taking it in, blowing it in their sleeve or in their shirts. There's products out there that exist that you can vape out of your watch. There's drawstrings that, yeah, exactly. It's like, wow, the industry is really wanting people to get it, just really convenient to have. So hoodies, drawstrings, Sharpie markers that look like a marker but are actually vapes. Inhalers, you talked about your inhaler earlier. So yeah, you just never know. It's like, when we're talking to schools and parents, we're like, yeah, maybe check your kid's backpack because they could very well have something like this. And what do we know about these things? Well, we know that there's, even in this cartridge, how many cigarettes do you think equivalent to a pod? How many packs or, let's say, number of cigarettes? 100. Any other guesses? One pod of a Juul contains how much nicotine, like in terms of number of cigarettes? Any guesses?
200.
200, not that many. 20. So a pack of cigarettes worth. So it's quite a lot. And youth are using this, throughout the day, and sometimes not able to focus on the task at hand because they're wondering when they can get their next rip. They're selling rips too, like, okay, here, you can have a hit of my vape for $1. So they're, making money this way too. Next slide. So aerosol dangers, so there's these ultra-fine particles that are getting lodged into people's lungs. And the problem is that these products are still relatively new. We don't have the data that we do with tobacco smoking. This in the future could look a lot different, but just to let you know that the air sacs, the elasticity in the lungs, they're all being harmful or harmed by the nicotine and other chemicals in these products. Have you heard of popcorn lung? Okay, so some of these flavor products have a chemical called, I'm not going to say for the chemist out there, diacetyl in the products, and they found out that this certain chemical caused an irreversible condition called popcorn lung. And it was by checking out this popcorn manufacturer is a factory, and their employees were coming down with this condition that they termed popcorn lung, and they learned that it was from this chemical, same chemical that's in some of these products. So, next. So, here we are, like, okay, you've told us some of the things. We all know that, smoking is bad and harmful and causes harmful effects on the body, on emotions, on the mind. But what do we do now? So there are certain skills and interventions, there's certain tools and a model that I want to share that can help that dialogue. I mean, chances are, who in here is already serving veterans in some capacity, whether it's helping them find housing or do you want to share what you do?
I work in SSVF, so I help homeless veterans get off the streets and into permanent housing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Anybody else want to share what they do? Come back here.
Yeah, I work for Spokane County. I'm a veteran service officer, so I assist with connecting veterans with VA benefits and disseminating the Veterans Relief Fund through the county.
Well, I'm just amazed at how much the VA does to support their veterans. I'm really proud of that. So this is what part of our goal is, to integrate tobacco counseling into your everyday work, because chances are you're a vet or the vet's family. So here are some things that we can do. And this is all based on motivational interviewing. Who has taken MI? Good. I encourage folks that have not to take that. It's really, oftentimes over the last 2 days we've heard about having empathy and being supportive. This is really what it's based out of. It's client-centered. It's not wrestling with your client, and it's not getting them to a point where you want them to be. This needs to come from them, and when they are ready, they will know where to go for help. So let's go into, quickly, this is a little bit more about providers. Cigarette smoking is more common among people with mental health conditions. Smokers with mental health conditions get sick, become disabled, and die early from smoke-related diseases. Many smokers with mental health conditions want to and are able to quit smoking. And quitting smoking will not interfere with recovery and may have mental health benefits. That is key. Providing smoking cessation is an important part of mental health treatment, is an important part of benefits and receiving benefits, important part of receiving that supportive housing care. So this is kind of the basis of what the 5 A's, the model that I'm going to speak about, is on. So definitely does help with recovery. And Paul had mentioned it's the #1 preventable cause of death and disease. So we should help clients to get to where they need to be. So there's a 3-link chain that I'm going to talk about a little bit. There's also a great guide to help you quit by the American Lung Association. Shout out to ALA, Freedom from Smoking. And this guide covers so many different things. If you just want to share this with somebody and get them something to think about, planting the seeds is kind of what we're hoping to do. So the biological piece, really hard to deal with because the nicotine is so strong. Like, there's no other drug that you can take like nicotine. I mean, hit after hit after hit, you're taking dose after dose after dose. It's still culturally acceptable, and it's legal to have. So when you get that hit of dopamine or that hit of nicotine, it releases dopamine, and you feel what? What do you feel like when you, for those who have used the product, what do you feel? Or if you know
Calm.
yourself? Calm, okay. Relieved. What else? Happy. And who wouldn't want to feel these things, right? It's like you get this drug entered in the brain, the receptors are turned on, but what happens over time? Like you have that nicotine, you're feeling great, what happens hours later?
So, it's not so much that smoking makes me feel a certain way, but not smoking makes me feel a certain way. So like, if I'm not smoking, then I'm more anxious or worried, feeling, things like that. Then when I smoke, then that goes away. So,
yeah, so it sounds like withdrawals are being met, you're getting the dopamine receptor set off, and it causes you to feel a different way, and all of a sudden you're feeling this new normal. Like if I'm not smoking, I don't feel that normalcy. But the good news is, over time, when your client or when you yourself stop using, these receptors turn off over time, and they stop yelling at you like, feed me, feed me, feed me. So it's just a process. Everybody has a different process and a different journey. But the psychological, this is key in people's recovery to nicotine dependence. Because what? We smoke when we name an activity.
yes.
When we drink. We smoke when we socialize. What were you going to say?
When you're stressed.
When you're stressed. When we drive. After meals. When we use the restroom. There's like so many things that is associated with smoking. And I once heard from one of my mentors, actually, he used to share this with people in his trainings, that there was an 8-year-old girl that didn't think her mom's car would start without her lighting a cigarette. So it's that repetitive routine, like, I'm seeing my mom start her car, and the only way she can start her car is by lighting her cigarette. I mean, that's how routine it is for folks. And this came up, I just did a training, I was telling Paul about this, I just did a training on Tuesday with Catholic Community Services in their supportive housing, and this lady was talking about how it was just a normal thing. It's like, well, you can't start the car without having that cigarette. So how am I going to start my car if I don't have that cigarette? Well, there's learned things that people practice over time that make that a little more easy. And then the psychological piece, if you're helping a client or resident or patient with smoking cessation, if they have a favorite chair that they smoke in every day, here's my favorite chair, and this is where I sit in my living room to smoke, try changing that chair to another part of the room. I mean, just changing that pattern can help tremendously. Or even maybe changing the chair out, altogether. So there's things like this that people can try and learn over time on what works for them. I met a lady at a health fair, and I'm always curious to hear how people are successful in their quit smoking journeys. And this lady said, well, I just used a Kleenex to help me quit. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Kleenex, how available is that and convenient to have, and it's cheap, and she just took a Kleenex every time she felt that hand to mouth motion that she needed to do. She would take it out of her pocket and just dab it around her mouth, put it back, and throughout the day she would just do this, and that is how she quit. I've heard about people using cinnamon sticks to help them quit, or plastic straws. You will find your way that will work for you. 30 minutes left. Okay, social, cultural. So we talked about the environmental factors, and just want to call out, why do we have smoking policies, smoke-free policies? Why do we have tobacco-free policies? You mentioned secondhand smoke, that's one of them. We have these smoke-free policies to help people quit. We have these policies to help prevent people from starting, to protect people from secondhand smoke. Social piece is a huge part of it. I mean, I was talking to somebody at this training lately, and she said, well, all the interesting conversations were happening outside where people were smoking. So Here's some signage. I was lucky enough to bring a souvenir home with me. Thank you, Paul. This is from my hotel room. I asked the head of housekeeping if I could have this to share with you all. This property is 100% no smoking. If smoking occurs during your stay, a $250 cleaning fee will be billed. I mean, we talked about the monetary factor. It is expensive. It's expensive for landlords, housing owners to have smoking in their houses, because the nicotine and tar alone is very expensive to remove, and sometimes just it stays on there, clings on there forever. But my point is that if you can have these seeds planted at your facilities and in your homes, places of employment, I think that can add to this, this different culture of, okay, well, I know where to go to if I need help. I know that I can't smoke here, but what are my other options? I talked about this a little bit earlier, associated with smoking, stress, driving, coffee, waking up. First thing I do when I wake up is grab a cigarette, these kinds of things. I worked with a gentleman through a smoking support group, and he was trying really hard to quit. He finally got there. Well, in order for him to be successful, he had to change the route he drove to work, because he did not want to drive past that store to pick up his cigarettes where he usually did. So again, you'll find these things. We talked about this, how addictive it is, the chemical dependency and nicotine, and how it totally takes the grasp, how it's difficult to quit, but very possible. And we want to get to the intervention piece. Symptoms of withdrawal, we talked a little bit about this. Really, is it withdrawals, or is it like the anxiety and depression that you live with every day? Well, combined with tobacco smoke, that's going to exacerbate your symptoms. Let's see, secrets that they keep. Talked a lot about secondhand smoke, but all these chemicals are found in cigarettes. How many chemicals are found in tobacco smoke? Any guesses? You want to guess?
It was pretty high.
Pretty high. What are we talking?
Like 106 or something.
106 chemicals in tobacco smoke. Do you have a guess?
I thought it was thousands.
Yeah, you're right. Thousands. 7,000. There's 7,000 chemicals in tobacco smoke, and about 60 are carcinogenic, meaning they cause cancer. So another thing on smoke-free policies. So Paul's handing out some tobacco ingredients that you can take a look at. Next slide. Benefits of quitting. We talked about the physical aspects and the heart rate, returns to normal. There's other things like, you're not coughing up as much phlegm. You're saving money. You might be able to actually get that job that you wanted, because now you are employable. Because there's some employers out there that won't hire you if you have nicotine in your system. So other things, the environmental piece and the mental and emotional piece. So MI, we talked about MI a little bit, having that client-centered approach and being empathetic. We are not naggy, we know that doesn't work. If I'm a provider and I say, you really need to stop smoking, that's not gonna work. Listen carefully like you do, use your reflections, ask permission to share, and talk about how important it is for them to quit, because whatever it is that they value, that's gonna get them to the next step. And the open-ended questions, you are very versed on the open-ended questions. And so motivational interviewing is a counseling approach that aims to help individuals resolve ambivalence and enhance motivation for change. It involves empathetic listening, asking open-ended questions, and reflecting back on what the person has to say to help them explore their own reasons, not our reasons, but their own reasons for change. Okay. And here's the OARS, O-A-R-S, open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. Again, if you can take the MI training, I really encourage it. It is quite a long training, broken up in several days sometimes, but really good to have. And it's helpful to have in personal life too, not just working with clients. So here we are. We are at the 5 A's, brief intervention, best practice guidelines per United States Health and Human Services. This is the gold standard in tobacco treatment. And Did you know that 70% of people who smoke, adult smokers that smoke, want to quit? That is huge. Why can't they quit? We talked about several reasons. Do you want to share? Why can't they quit? And I also used to share a slide that had a graphic that said, there's 480,000 deaths attributed to tobacco smoking in the United States every year. And what's worse is that half of those are people experiencing mental health conditions and substance use. But 70% of people want to quit. Many of them don't know how to quit. Many of them need to know what support is available for them to quit. They need to know the tools that are available for them to quit. They need to know that they can quit. They need to feel empowered to be able to quit. They need to have, again, that support. So here we are. This is the evidence-based best practice model. 5 A's: asking, advising, assessing, assisting, and arranging. So asking, when we go to the doctor, there's a tobacco question on there, always. So asking that question and documenting it and having that systematic approach is key. Advising them, as your case manager, as your social worker, as, your admin, whatever your role is, advising them in a prescriptive, clear way that the best thing for them to do for their asthma, for their, health condition, for their heart condition, is to quit smoking. And this is something that you can practice to yourself, out loud, but finding that advice in your own way. And assessing, where are they in their readiness to quit? I spoke to a gentleman earlier, I'm ready. If they are ready in the next 30 days, you want to be there. You want to be that support for them before they decide otherwise. So assessing them, how confident do you feel in quitting? And what is going to take you from A to B? So if they say, well, I'm not really confident, I don't know if I can do it, I'm only at a 2. Well, if they're at a 2, that's great. They're not at a 1 or a 0. So, you got to start somewhere and take that as a positive. And if they're not ready, then let them know, well, when you're ready, here's a quit line. Here's the Tomorrow app information. Here's a booklet. When you're ready, you can come find me. Knock on my door and I will help you walk through it. Assisting with that quit resource. So that's the referral part. And then arranging for follow-up. So if you can see that person in the next 2 weeks, that's going to be critical. Whether it's an email or a text or a phone call or, passing them in the hallway. How are you doing? You recently quit. Just want to check in with you. And relapse is going to happen. Slips are going to happen. What's the average amount of attempts it takes for somebody to quit for the general population? What do you think?
7.
7. Really close. So yeah, it's about 8 for general. So for the community that we're working with, for populations that are special populations, it could take double the amount sometimes. So we need to stick through it, be persistent and patient. And it's not a reflection on you and how you're doing in your role helping these folks. They could very well be out of the system or moved on or not be in contact anymore, but they could quit 5 years from now, 6 years from now. You would never know, but you are an intricate part of that. Okay, so breaking it down, asking about tobacco use. You can ask this well, what do you currently smoke? If you already know that they smoke cigarettes, what do you smoke? Asking the proper questions, because some people that vape don't see themselves as smokers or tobacco users. So asking the question straight up, do you vape? Do you Juul? Do you Elf Bar now? There's all these things. So asking that right question. There was a training that we did years ago. I think this is when the hookah bars first started opening up and all that. Well, we had carbon monoxide monitors available for people to test how much carbon was in their blood. And we had a volunteer come up. She's like, well, I don't smoke, but I'll try it. Well, she blew into the thing and the monitor lit up, red lights, off the charts. like, are you okay? Like, how are you still standing here? Are you dizzy? Like, you should go see the doctor. But she was off the chart. She's like, well, I don't even smoke. She goes, but I hookah. And so, well, there you have it. Like, hookah is also a form of tobacco use. And, you know, one session of hookah is like smoking 100 cigarettes. So it's pretty dangerous. Toxic carbon monoxide. So Fagerstrom test, this is something that can be available for you as a conversation starter. This really indicates how dependent somebody is on nicotine, asking these 6 questions. You know, how soon after you wake up do you have your first cigarette? If it's within the 5 minutes, that's pretty high dependence. Do you find it difficult to refrain from smoking in places where it's forbidden or banned? Which cigarette would you hate most to give up? How many cigarettes per day do you smoke? Do you smoke more frequently during the first hours of waking than during the rest of the day? And do you smoke even if you are so ill that you are in bed most of the day? So there's scoring involved, and depending on where they are in their scores, you can kind of gauge where you can talk to them about the nicotine replacement therapy, patches, gum, or lozenge, because if they are highly dependent, you want to start them on the high level, like level 1, step 1, 21 milligram patches, and we're not going to go into the dosages and all that stuff, because this is usually, I don't know, it could be like a 6-hour training, just so you know. There's so many things to cover. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, this will be available for you. You can, you know, make copies of it or whatnot. And then the advise, we mentioned, you know, having this prescriptive and tying it into something they value, so making it relevant to them. Assessing, are you willing to try quitting? If not ready, help identify reasons to quit and build their confidence to make an attempt. I guess, again, you know, assessing where they are, just building off of that and praising them wherever they are. And then the arranging is following up, and relapse and slips are going to happen, but when somebody quits, they learn a lot, right? We're gonna hone in on the strengths that we heard about in the last couple of days, hone in on those strengths. What did you learn the last time you quit? What worked for you? You know, how did you feel when you quit the last time? And how do you feel now that you're, you know, that you've slipped? Like, working through all of that. And so we have just a few minutes. What we had planned is for you to turn to your neighbor and kind of talk about the 5 A's, like practicing that. If we have 2 volunteers to role play the 5 A's, we can do that also. So I'm just going to leave that to you, what you want to do. We always what do you feel like? Do you feel like engaging and interacting and practicing any of this? I know that we've heard people want tools to walk away with, so we want to have this opportunity to have you practice a little bit. But if we're not feeling it, I totally understand. It is Friday. After yeah, okay. Okay, so any questions about the 5 A's? And have you counseled somebody perhaps already on 5 A's? Not, you know, going through all this stuff, but have you helped somebody with tobacco use? You have?
Yeah, I was telling him yesterday, I'm already by the camera, it'll hear me.
Oh, okay.
I had to convince my mom to quit smoking, and my stepdad. She was 4 packs a day, easy. My stepdad, 2 packs. She was bedridden, he was paralyzed. Left side, stroke. So my doctor actually chimed in. I was a pack a day at the time, and he actually took an x-ray with he did little like foil or whatever on my chest, and then took an x-ray of my lungs. And I showed that x-ray to my mom and said that I had emphysema onset. The only way she was going to quit is she knew she was going to lose another kid, because I'm the youngest of 7, and I'm the youngest of 2. We've lost them all to cancer or whatever. But she saw those x-rays, and we quit on our birthday, all 3 of us.
On her birthday, you all quit.
She still doesn't know that it was a fake x-ray, but she doesn't need to know that.
Oh my!
But she's, every day for the last month, she's had a couple of very close calls, almost passing on from one thing or another. She is begging me to buy her a pack of cigarettes. And I was like, no. Remember that x-ray?
Yes. Wow, so you all went about it cold turkey.
8 years now.
8 years free from tobacco smoking. Let's give them a hand.
A little bit of a white lie.
And it was a fake x-ray. That
It was a fake x-ray. He didn't charge me for it too. He actually.
Oh, it was an actual x-ray from him.
It was an actual x-ray. My doctor helped me.
That's incredible.
Told him I had to find a way to quit.
See, you'll find these ways to people to quit.
I tried it on my dad, and my dad says, I know when you've been bullshitting for the last 40 years, so don't even try that on me.
That's yeah. My
He still
dad.
smokes.
My dad used to say, "You can't bullshit a bullshitter."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's true. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Like, and we talked about nicotine dependence and how, you still see people outside of UW Harborview smoking with their oxygen tanks. I mean, that's how addictive it is. And even if you've quit for a certain period of time, there's something in your brain that remembers and recalls and like, oh, I wouldn't mind having another, But then that reverses quickly, hopefully, for most people. Okay, preparing the quit plan when you're helping folks. Here are some things that you can talk about. Again, this is in the booklet. Set a quit date, choose your reasoning for quitting, identify your triggers, prepare to fight the cravings and withdrawals, and you can do that with nicotine replacement therapy. These NRTs make it a more comfortable quit. Not a lot of people can quit cold turkey. A lot of people need that extra help and helping with those withdrawals. So that's what nicotine replacement does. Avoid smoking reminders, tell family and friends, throw away your tobacco products, planning ahead, and talking about if they do slip or relapse, what happened, how can we get back on track. NRTs, there's FDA approved, as Paul mentioned, FDA medications that are out there. The industry, Zyn is one of the industry's products, so you got to kind of think about, is that really helping me quit or is it helping me stay on nicotine? But you have resources available to you to help you kind of through that process. But you're not getting this is the good news, you're not getting all of this anymore. And if you can quit smoking, you can quit whatever other nicotine things that have followed that. So,
Hold it up.
Oh, this is the tobacco jar. This is a year's worth of tar of somebody that smokes half a pack of cigarettes every day. And most of the folks that we work with smoke up to a pack or more a day. So double that, triple that. And next, and this is also a great conversation piece to have at your desk. Your vet walks in, like, what is that? Well, this is what you're taking in if you're smoking half a pack. So quitting takes time and practice. I've talked about 7 to 8 attempts, but the more times you quit, the more times you get closer to becoming quit for good. Learn what works. Everyone's experience is going to be different. Seek and give support. There's a lot of resources out there. Make sure you're looking at credible resources, not resources that are given out by the industry, because they are doing that too. So make sure that they are legit. And we're going to talk about resources that are legit. And here are the resources that are legit.
Thank you, Nori. So there are many, many resources available for veterans, whether you are registered with the VA or not. There are some that the VA federal VA provides. We're going to look at a few of those right now. Our Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs has an entire program dedicated to it now, and I'll be talking about that in just a moment or two. So what I want to show you here is the VA's Quit Vet program. We're going to have just a look at their website real quickly here.
Really quick plug there's several certified tobacco treatment specialists that are working on getting hours for cessation. So if you or you yourself or know somebody that is in the process of quitting or could use some more help, there's tobacco counselors that are offering their services for free, and Paul can give you more information on that.
Thanks for calling QuitVet. How can I help you today?
I'm ready to quit smoking. How do I get started?
One phone call is all it takes to begin to quit smoking, dipping, or chewing. The Quit Vet Tobacco Line is a free counseling service available to any veteran enrolled for care in VA, and it can double your chances of quitting for good. On your first call to the Quit Line, you will speak with a trained tobacco cessation counselor about your tobacco use and motivations for quitting, as well as your past efforts to quit. In 30 minutes or less, your counselor will help you build a personalized quit plan to get started. The cravings may stick with you for a while, but so will we. Quitline counselors are the supporters you need, reaching out to check in on your progress and keep you on track to quit. You can quit tobacco, and VA can help. Dial 1-855-QUIT-VET today and start your tobacco-free life.
Okay, so trained counselors, right? You get follow-up counseling and access to all their follow-up materials. But you do have to be registered with the VA for that, for sure. Verified, okay? Next one is smoke-free vet. So what I want to draw your attention to here is all the different categories at the top here. Smoke-free women, smoke-free teen, smoke-free 50 plus, lots of tools and tips, and there'll be an intake form there. Okay. If you want some printables, these tobacco and health fact sheets from, I believe, CDC are extremely helpful. There are PDFs. And we come right up there. So if you want some printables for your office to take back, these are very handy dandy and quick to use, user-friendly to print out. And all the links are in the slide deck that you'll see on the resources for the conference. So our Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs has an entire program dedicated to this. We received the grant from the CDC for the community's disparities requirement, and we have been developing this for about the last year and a half. We will do a complete assessment for any veteran in the state, including the Fagerstrom test, including the test will assess your triggers and patterns in your smoking habits. We'll make recommendations for a treatment plan. It's a comprehensive assessment. Make recommendations for medications, regular follow-up coaching and counseling. I have about 8 on the go right now. 4 of those are over 90 days smoke-free. Yep. And help with cravings and slips, and I can meet with you in person or over Zoom. Norilyn was talking about, we are collaborating with the state, Pierce County, and other counties, part of our coalition that we formed. Health districts around the state are trying to help veterans as best they can, and we are all coming together. We are also part of another coalition called Washington Breathes Coalition, and those are efforts. We have different work groups that we're part of, and we're all working towards the same goal, which is saving lives and veterans' lives in the state. We also have the Washington State Quit Line. Again, access to counselors, recommendations, referrals to resources. A's and Smokers Quit Line. 2-week supply of NRT. Yep. One-on-one counseling. So here's our information. Norilyn's information for King County. And then this QR code is the web page for our DVA program. And all the contact information and referral information is there too. Norilyn was talking about tobacco treatment specialists. We are collaborating with the other entities around the state to do the ask. Who wants to help, and who wants to receive training. Both Norilyn and I have training in tobacco treatment cessation, Mayo Clinic, and I took mine through the Duke program, Duke University, and it is it is wonderful training. It's like 4 days, 5 days, right? Wonderful training. You're going to learn so much. There are many people in this field that have been doing this a lot longer than I have, and they have been my mentors, advisors, and it has just been so wonderful. And so if you know anyone out there that wants to help us and be a champion, an ambassador, we're asking you today, go pass the word, give us a call, and we'll get you hooked up with some of that free training that's out there. All right, so thanks for coming today on the Friday afternoon, and we wish you a happy, safe drive home, and make sure you hydrate. All right, thanks everybody. Bye-bye. We can stick around for some questions. If you want to come up and interact with the materials, feel free to do that. Thank you.